What happened?
You're live.
Oh, yes. Yes, hello, and welcome to Further Together, Enriching Relationships, Creating a Better Future. It is another week and another episode. I hope you started the month of October well. The year is going very fast, especially with the fact that we spent,
Months.
months, or I'll say the better, a longer chunk of the year indoors without doing our usual activities. So now we are just left with a couple of months to end the year, but we still have to do what needs to be done. That's why we are here as Further Together, and every week we are ever bringing new people who are there to inspire, to educate, and to enrich your marriage. Who is there? I can see, hi, Nelson Madzigatire is right there. If you are just joining us, show us by just giving a comment, thumbs up, a heart, whatsoever you can do so that we may know that you are there. Tonight is a different night, and we have a special guest.
Yes, we've got an awesome and a phenomenal lady, a multi-award winning author in the studios, just on the backgrounds. So guys, if you're just joining us, do share this broadcast. You never know who will watch it and who will need the content and the information that we are going to share tonight. Thank you so much for all your feedback in regards to this program. Just to let you know that this live is coming by special request. You know, we are covering a range of topics, and there's so many issues that some of you guys are sending to us to address, and this is one of such topics, from breakup to breakthrough.
Yeah,
We are aware that there are some people that are going through breakups at the moment. There's nothing that we can do about it. Some people, especially if they are going through abuse in their relationship, if they are in toxic marriages, they are bound to have to want to come out. And we have a divorce coach in the studios tonight. I'm sure she's going to tell us why she's called a divorce coach, because this is one of the questions that we're getting, like, divorce coach, what does that mean? So I'm sure she will enlighten us more.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight you are in for a treat. The lady whom we're bringing tonight, she has been contributing to the UK media immensely. She has contributed to the Sun, the Daily Mail, and the Guardian. She is also not stranger to the UK radio stations and magazines,
The television
as well as the television.
Mhm.
A very massive contributor when it comes to media. Sarah is one person who, back in the day when self-development was just coming into the UK, she's one of those people who started to introduce, as well as bringing people from the United States coming here for personal development. Very closely worked with, if you know Tony Robbins, she have worked very closely with Tony Robbins, attended Tony Robbins workshop at the age of 20, and it transformed her life. And from then she was in the personal development industry. So we are bringing somebody who is seasoned, a seasoned coach, a seasoned mentor with a qualified NLP specialist. So tonight is a different night. We are going to have somebody with substance. So tell a friend to tell a friend that Further Together is an air, and Sarah is right in the studios. Hello, Sarah, and welcome.
Hello. Wow, what an introduction. Thank you so much. That was amazing. It's such a pleasure to be here. And thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be here.
Yes, we thank you for honoring our invitation. We know you have a busy schedule, and for you to be here tonight, it's an honor to us as well as to our viewers. You're an author, and one of your books that touched me when we were looking at your books is the book called titled Uncoupling.
Yes, I've got two best-selling books. My book Uncoupling was my first book. Yeah, and it tells a bit about my story and how I got into what I'm doing, because it's quite unusual, as you said, being a divorce coach is something that's quite unusual. Like you said, Priscilla, it is a bit unusual, and people always say, "You do what?" So I spend a lot of time explaining. So what I do is I'm known as the divorce coach, and I help people cope with the emotional roller coaster that you go through after any breakup. So it could be your first heartbreak, it could be a separation, or you could be married for a long time and be going through a divorce, or you might be thinking about it, or even in the middle of it, or you might have separated a long time ago, but you're still stuck and not sure what to do. Maybe your partner's moved on, had another family, and you're still struggling with your confidence or self-esteem. Maybe there's a conflict. Maybe dating is something that terrifies you. So, you know, lots of different areas. So I cover lots of different things, men and women all around the globe. So with Zoom coaching, I have clients in Australia, in Africa, in all 5 continents. We've got different clients at the moment. So yeah, and then I also train people to do what I do. So I train people to become breakup and divorce coaches as well. So it's busy.
Yes, Sarah, you come from a background of coaching, you know, holistically and personal development. What led you into divorce coaching?
That's a great question. Well, I've been coaching for about 15 years when, I've actually been coaching for about 10, 15 years when I met my husband, and he was my soulmate. He was my best friend. We worked together as well. We set up a business. It was a global business. So we shared a lot in common. You know, we traveled the world, and then we had a son, and I was very happy. And so I didn't see my divorce or breakup coming at all. And it hit me like an absolute freight train. And I was on my knees. I was, you know, even though I'd been a coach for a long time, I was still struggling to cope with that emotional roller coaster I was talking about, where you just feel so devastated and you don't know which way to turn. And I thought, gosh, if I'm struggling and I'm a coach, you know, and I'm supposed to know how to cope with the difficult emotions, you know, how do I get through this? So I looked for ways to help myself, and I combined my coaching techniques that I'd learned, as you said, Kizzy, from Tony Robbins, Paul McKenna, lots of people that I'd worked with over the last 10 years and studied with. And I put together a program to get me through my own breakup, and I managed quite well. So my divorce lawyer said to me, Sarah, can you help some of my other clients? And so I started talking to them, and then that's why I wrote my book, because there was so much demand for the information, and I didn't want people to go through what I went through, because there are ways to make it easier. There are ways to cope better. And so it just kind of took off. My book got translated into Chinese and it sells around the world. So yeah, after that, people sort of found me, and I ran retreats when we could do live events. I was running retreats called breakup recovery retreats. So people would come to me and work in relatively small groups with me one-on-one. And the Daily Mail then got hold of those and dubbed them Heartbreak Hotel. And then it sort of took off from there. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. We may want to find out more in terms of some of the challenges that you'd say you faced that made you to now write the book and become the help to other people that are going through similar situations that you went through.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm happy to answer questions on that and specific issues. I mean, obviously overnight, I not only lost my husband, who was my best friend, but also the father of my son and my business partner. And my husband met someone very quickly and moved on, and was very happy, started a new family very quickly. So yeah, becoming a single parent and managing a blended family and all those things were very difficult. But yeah, that's why I think I know, that's why what my clients like about coaching with me, because they know I've been there. So, you know, when they're crying or they feel like there's no hope, or they're just overwhelmed, or maybe they can't let go of their ex, or they feel stuck, You know, I've been there and I know what it's like. So, you know, I've got lots of experience and techniques from coaching for 25 years now, but you know, I combine that with the breakup process to create a program that really works and creates fast transformations for people to give them hope. You know, I mean, unfortunately, there's no magic wand to take away all the pain, because you know, you have to go through that grieving process, right? You care about someone a lot and they're not there anymore. So, you know, suddenly you've got to go through that grieving process and come out the other side. So it's actually a healthy thing to do, to cry and to have those lows, but it's knowing how to pick yourself up and carry on and put one foot in front of the other. When if you're anything like me, you just want to lie in bed with a duvet over your head eating salt and vinegar crisps. So that's where I come in helpful.
And thank you so much, Sarah. You know, when to those who are married watching, one question which comes in will be, what are the reasons? You have worked with a number of people, some who were divorcing and some who were uncoupling. I will go to that, the difference. But what are the main reasons of divorce so far with the people whom you have worked with? And secondly, what would be the telltale signs that you know, there are signals that this couple is heading for divorce?
Yeah, great questions, guys. So I think really the number one reason, and it kind of manifests in different ways, but the number one reason that people break up is a breakdown in communication. Now that can manifest in lots of different ways, but it usually starts off a long time before the actual break point. So what you'll find is that things will be stacking over a period of time. Like, for example, he leaves his clothes on the floor, or she doesn't greet him in a certain way that he likes when he comes in, or, you know, there's a mismatch. So it kind of grates a bit, but you kind of think, oh, you know what, I'm not going to cause an argument. I'm not going to, you know, bring that up, or maybe you do, and they do nothing about it. So, you know, these things start to stack. And if you don't address them, they do accumulate to a point where sometimes it's very difficult to go back from there, because once that frustration becomes resentment, it's almost like a switch flicks, and you kind of like, you start to not feel as attracted to them, you know. So that's why it's really important to get in early. As soon as these things, you know, start to come up, you start to notice that there's things that irritate you or things that upset you, and you know, we all have to take responsibility for the way we communicate that, because you know, I do have clients who are, you know, naggers, and so they will nag their partners to say, well, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing this. But if they're not responding, some partners will go, oh, I'm sorry, okay, and change their ways. But I know a lot of you are thinking, not my partner. But that maybe what we have to do is change the way we communicate, so that if you want a certain outcome, if their nagging isn't working, then maybe try a different approach. Maybe sit them down and say, look, this is really, you know, I'm finding it difficult to cope with this. Now, I know it's not your intention to do it because you want to annoy me, but it is a result of that. So is there a way we can work around it? So do you see there's a difference of how you approach it to get the desired outcome? Because if you don't deal with things as they come up, it's going to get to the point where then you're going to get those symptoms I was talking about, which might be someone disengages from the relationship, someone decides they just shut down and don't want to talk. They might cut off. They might not want to go out so much. They might just rather stay at home. They might not want to be intimate, or they might start having an affair, you know. But that's all a symptom of a breakdown in communication further down the line that hasn't been addressed. So if you are in that situation and you do think, oh gosh, you know, I think there's a few things here that I need to address, then it's about creating a safe environment so you can have those difficult conversations with your partner in a way that helps you resolve it before it gets to that critical point.
This is getting deep, guys. Do share this live broadcast. Not only does it help people that are going through a breakup or a divorce at this moment, but this discussion is fundamental for those that are married,
so that you stay married.
So that you stay married. So,
yeah.
One of the things that you do is that you empower individuals to have that breakthrough or a comeback after a breakup. And sometimes people may want to ask, is it really possible that it can be done in such a way that is easy and maybe pain-free. You know, let's just go through the divorce in a very nice and pain-free process, and then just come out strong.
Yeah, yeah. Of late, we saw the billionaire Jeff Bezos saying we are parting with his wife, and he was writing those nice words that, you know, is smooth selling. Is it that easy?
Yeah. Well, it would be lovely if it was, guys, but you know, I really admire the celebrities that take the high roads and put out the good intentions, because you know that is possible to do it in an amicable way. I mean, obviously behind the scenes there are going to be tensions. You know, if you start talking about money, if you start talking about children, you start talking about changes in lifestyle. Not that they had to change much of their lifestyle in that particular example, but you know, I mean, it will put tension on even the most amicable of relationships. I mean, is it possible? Yes, of course, you can get through it without falling out forever, without having huge arguments. But the key to that is to be kind and respectful to each other. Those 2 points are absolutely, absolutely vital. And in order to maintain that, you have to have that conversation up front. Because you may say, oh, we get on really well, it's fine, we've sort of fizzled out, there's no betrayal, we're both happy with the split. But actually, once you start talking about money and who's living where and who's getting the piano or the painting or the, you know, then things, you know, even the most friendly people can get into difficulty. So I always say, before you even get to that point, whilst you're still amicable, have the discussion that, look, we know it's going to get difficult at some point. You know, it might be once, it might be 50 times. But can we agree that we're going to do everything with kindness and respect? And how we resolve conflict is really important. Because if one of you has got a different conflict resolution strategy to the other one, you're going to have problems. Like, for example, I had a client called Mark who was Greek. Now, I don't know if you know much about Greeks, but this particular guy, Mark, was incredibly fiery. And his parents, where he grew up, his mum and dad, loved each other very, very much. They're a big family and loved each other. But their way of communicating was a lot of shouting. Now, shouting to Mark didn't mean they hated each other. It just meant they wanted to resolve their argument. And they would stay in the room and fight it out until the end. Now, if one of them left or if one of them didn't want to fight, that would be disrespectful, because that was their way of showing their love. You stay in the room and you fight it out, and then you resolve it, and then you part on good terms. But Mark married Sarah. Now, Sarah came from a very quiet family, very gentle. They never raised their voices. In fact, she could only remember one time in her entire life where her mum and dad actually lost their tempers. So their strategy for resolving conflict was, when things started to get a little bit uncomfortable, not even loud, just uncomfortable, they would both leave the room, and quite often they would sleep on the argument, on the disagreement, and then come back even the next day to talk it through. So to Sarah, that was the most loving, kind thing you could do. So then imagine what happens, guys, when you put Mark and Sarah they get married, they're living together, they have an argument. Mark's in the room shouting and screaming and just doing all the loving, respectful things that he knows to resolve an argument. And she gets up and walks out. Now she is doing what she thinks is the most loving, respectful thing to her partner, because she loves him so much, she doesn't want to have this argument. Now Mark sees that as, she doesn't love me, she doesn't want to be with me, our marriage is falling apart. Do you see how they're completely miscommunicating, even though they're both doing what they think is the most loving thing for each other? So this is where conflict resolution is really important. If you're in a healthy relationship, just understanding how you guys communicate to resolve those arguments is really important. And if you do have a mismatch, that can still work. You've just got to be consciously aware that your partner isn't being unloving. In fact, they might be doing the most loving thing, even though to you it might feel like the most hideous thing.
Yes, if you're just joining us, our topic tonight is from break up to breakthrough, and we have the divorce coach Sarah Davison, and you know, statistics in the UK, in Britain, it says 42% of marriages end in divorce. And for your own information, if you're watching and you don't know this, divorce is the second traumatic experience that people have in life. The first one being the the death of a loved one. So if ever there's anything that makes people go bonkers is divorce. And if it's not done properly, then it becomes more worse. And the question, Sarah, would be, is it the money? Is it the children? Or it's just the thought of it that makes people to go so much crazy about divorce? What is it?
Well, I think there's a huge sense of loss when you go through a divorce. And, when you get married, you spend a lot of time planning it and working up to it and, choosing the dress and how the wedding's going to be and the colors and everything. And then suddenly it's all over and you're left with a huge hole in your life. Now, it can be different if it's your decision or if the relationship is fizzled out over a long period of time. But if, like me, you didn't see it coming, or it's someone else's, your partner's choice to leave you, that can be a big challenge and a big trauma to you on so many different levels. For example, your self-confidence, the fact that somebody that you love doesn't love you back, a sense of betrayal, a sense of losing your identity, because during a relationship we often become codependent on each other, and what that means is you kind of lose a sense of yourself. And you kind of become a couple. So it's we this and we that. Yeah. So it's a big deal. So rediscovering what life is like on your own can be a big challenge. And again, money, like you said, because is a big deal as well, because suddenly you've got to separate the finances. And then suddenly you're dealing with how do you survive on maybe half of the money that you were used to. Maybe when you split it up, you can't, you've got a house you live in, but you have to go to a much smaller place to live afterwards because that was enough for both of you.
In the UK, it's 50-50, isn't it?
Well, yes, usually it's about 50. That's the UK law. I mean, each case is different, but 50-50 is the UK law, yes. So, and then that can cause a lot of tension, I mean, that is the law, but, sometimes someone's worked, all their life, someone, and then, it could just be a very difficult, traumatic experience to go through, losing a lifestyle. Whilst, we all know that money doesn't make you happy, it does give you choices, and that can be a fear. And a lot of people stay in unhappy marriages because they don't want to go out and have a lifestyle. Maybe the kids' lifestyle would change and they don't want to inflict that on the children. Maybe they'd have to change schools. Maybe they wouldn't be able to afford to live separately. So there can be lots of reasons why people stay together and try and make relationships work. Just because of finances can be a big issue.
This is getting deeper. Guys, do share the broadcast. Like we've mentioned earlier, that this not only helps us as the married people, but we are aware that there are a lot of people that are going through this confusion and anxiety and trauma of having to go through a breakup. How do you now help couples? How do you help individuals that have they're going through anxiety due to the breakup, and they probably are asking themselves a lot of questions? What is going on? How did this happen? Why is this happening? What did I do wrong? How do you help them to reduce the anxiety of having to go through a breakup?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, because anxiety is the number one thing that people are reeling from, because you've got so many worries about money. As Nelson said, the biggest issue is money, but also self-esteem, confidence. Will anyone ever love me again? Will I be alone? Fear of loneliness is a huge thing. Although, interestingly, sometimes you can feel more lonely in a toxic marriage than you do when you get out and all your friends rally around you. So, sometimes you can be surprised by the amount of friendship and love that you are shown during a breakup by friends and family. So yeah, for anxiety, there's lots of different things you can do to make an instant shift in how you feel. I mean, first of all, quite often in the initial stages, we're deep in overwhelm and anything seems too difficult. But what we do is we forget to breathe. So actually just taking some deep breaths can really just help ground you in that instant when you start to feel the high anxiety, almost those panic attacks, that you feel in those early days where it's a big shock and you're just reeling from that. Getting out and taking some exercise is really important. It's tempting to stay at home. It's tempting to stay in bed. It's tempting not to get out of your pajamas. But actually, forcing yourself to push yourself out of that comfort zone and take a little bit of exercise. Now, you don't have to go to the gym and start lifting huge weights unless that's your thing. Well, if you do, that's great. But, you know, even a brisk walk around the block, or go to a park where there's some trees, or maybe a lake, something where you can just take some deep breaths and just get outside and move your body, will change how you feel. And it's important that you take good care of your body at times like this. You know, I mean, eating junk food is something, maybe your comfort food, you go for the tub of Ben and Jerry's, you know, that's comforting. And I'm not saying you're not to do that, because obviously that's something you've got to do to get through those early days, what you need to do. But try and get some balance. And make sure you got some exercise, make sure you feed yourself some food that's going to give you the energy you need to get through this, because it is going to take you digging deep a bit to get through it. And also set up what I call a breakup support team around you. So that should be people that can help answer those questions you were talking about, Priscilla, in your head. That maybe you're not worried about money. So find a friend, or maybe an accountant, somebody that understands numbers, that can go through the numbers with you to look at what you're worried about. You know, if you're worried about what your budget will be and how much you'll have to spend each month, work through the figures with someone who can just do it for you. That just takes down the pressure a little bit. And a lot of people run away from that, understandably, because it's scary and you might not like what you see, so let's not look. And that's human nature. But actually, if you're doing that, then that anxiety is going to follow you around. Getting clarity on it means that you might not like what you see, but then you can put a plan together to fill that gap, and at least you know, you've got that clarity. So clarity will give you power to get out of that anxiety. And then also choose, and this is really important, choose family and friends to be in this breakup support team. Now, the important bit is, it's not the friend that does what one of my clients did the other day. She turned up for her first session with me, and in her boot, she opened her boot of her car, and in it, she was pointing at these bin bags. And I was like, what's in there? And she said, my best friend came over last night, and she hates him because he's left me and he's doing all these horrible things. So she said, let's go to his wardrobe and cut up all his clothes. She said, so they're in the bin bags, and we're going to drop them around later. And I was like, oh my God. Now, this best friend is a lovely woman, but because she's emotionally involved, her advice was not what this lady needed, okay? Because it had long-term damaging consequences to their relationship and with the kids. It was just all a bit difficult after that. So you need to pick your friends carefully for your breakup support team. And these are people that are going to give you constructive advice that's going to help you to feel, a bit more in control and give you, a more positive outcome. So they're not so emotionally involved. So you need a couple of them on your list so you can speed dial them when you need that help. And then also someone that will get out in the park with you, go for that walk, an exercise buddy, maybe a coach or a therapist, somebody that can help you with the emotions as well. Put the people around you. If you need legal advice, have somebody that you can speak to, because once you get clarity on the areas that are worrying you, it will reduce the anxiety. It's almost like dialing down those negative emotions by getting more educated, more understanding about the things that are worrying you. So that's what I would suggest, just to dial down that anxiety, especially in the early days.
It is real, anxiety can be so real. And right here in the UK, especially within the African and Caribbean community, anxiety is quite high. Coupled with the year we are in, year 2020, people have been indoors and domestic violence and all this stuff. So if you are going through such, don't call your friend whom you know that you are equally, hot-headed. Look for somebody who can help you. That's why we bring people like Sarah here who can help you professionally, who have studied the things and they've been through that, so they know how to navigate and come out of the maze which you'll be trapped in. In one of your books, Split, you speak of protecting children from harmful behavior. And what we always see normally when people split where there are children, especially young children, the spouse who has the children is getting on her feet, on his feet, and also dating, and then a number of other partners coming, trying to sample this one. Could I get the right soulmate? I don't want to repeat the same mistake. So there are ins and out, which happens there. And whilst the other partner as well, who is outside, might be doing what they're doing. How do we protect the children?
Well, again, that's a really important question, because children are an integral part of a divorce, and quite often they're overlooked because we think it's about the adults. But it depends on the ages of the children. If they're very, very young, then they're not going to know any different than mummy and daddy living apart. If they're babies or one or two, then usually when there's separation and in the early days, they can adapt because that's all they've ever known. They don't know mum and dad living together. When they start to get a bit older, it can be more challenging. And so you have to really think carefully, especially about, like you said, because you're inviting new people in. Because if you have new partners coming in and out, it can be very destabilizing for the children. So my advice is always, you go and have your fun. And, great if you're getting back out there. It's great for your confidence. It's great for your self-esteem. You might have to kiss a few frogs, but get out there and get back and dating again, and that's a great thing, as long as you're making sure you've learned the lessons from the past. Don't keep attracting the same kind of person that is going to hurt you. If your last relationship didn't work out because maybe you needed someone to pick you up when you were down and they didn't want to talk about emotions, then make sure you're not attracting that same type of partner again, because emotional intelligence or ability to talk openly or to cheer you up is obviously important to you. So that's got to be top of your list when you're looking for a partner. You can't just go for the attraction, because that's great in the short term for Mr. or Miss Right now, but if you're looking for Mr. or Miss Right, then you've got to get thinking, And if you want to almost have a safety net underneath you when you're dating, then I would suggest you really take time to design your ideal partner carefully. So write down what you want, which it should come pretty easy. Most people know what they want, tall, dark, handsome, whatever, those traits come pretty easy. But it's when you start thinking about what you need, and that's maybe where we overlook it to go for the attraction. So we need to make sure you've got both, because otherwise you're going to head for the same heartbreak all over again. So learn from the lessons, start being conscious about what you want, and also have a list of up to 5 must not haves. Now, these are things which are absolute deal breakers for you. Okay. So it could be, for example, that, something like they smoke. You don't want to be with smoking. It can never work out. Or it could be that they have children, because some people don't like it when someone's got children. That's really difficult for them. And that's fine. But make sure you're aware so that you don't keep making the same mistakes. Because if you keep going for people that smoke when you don't want to be with someone that smokes, ultimately that's going to annoy you and it's going to cause problems. Things like if they're selfish or abusive, if you've been in a toxic relationship, maybe honesty or, lying is an issue. Well, then make sure that's on your list. And if someone has any of your 5 must not haves, if they even have one of them, you need to deploy your parachute and get the hell out straight away. These are deal breakers to protect you from getting your heart broken again or getting hurt emotionally or physically in some cases. So you just need to be really careful. And if you can do that, then you can go out and date with a bit more confidence. And, the hope of success of us finding a good match for you is massively increased. So I went a bit off topic there, but as far as the kids, I would wait until you found that person, not Mr. Right Now or Miss Right Now. Wait till you find the Mr. Right or Miss Right. And then when and you think the relationship has got a serious future, then introduce the children to them. But I would definitely separate that and just have your fun time for now without the kids involved.
Absolutely.
Avoid Miss Right Now and Miss Right Now.
No, Miss.
Well, don't have to avoid them. Just don't fall in love with them, because they're not going to be the long-term partners. Certainly have fun.
You say you must have that must note. Those must the red flags. If you see them, then hit the highway. Don't stick around. And
it's a deal breaker.
Yes. What would you say are some of the disadvantages if people do not wait long enough? If someone just gets a Mr. Right Now and goes for it, besides the fact that you're saying that you're much more likely to attract the same, a spouse who already has the same attributes as the one that you're coming from, what are the other disadvantages of not waiting long enough?
Look, I think it's good to get back out there and start dating, because a lot of my clients will say they're nervous. When's the right time to date again? What you know, I don't want to get hurt, or I'm never going to go out on a date ever again. And I think, you know, you've got to start living your life. You know, if you really don't want to, then that's fine. But you've got to think about why. Quite often we'll say we don't want to, but it's not a real reason. It's an excuse. And it's our body's natural way of protecting ourselves from going through that pain again. So unconsciously, we're thinking, okay, well, if I go dating, then I'm going to meet someone, fall in love, and then they're going to treat me badly, and then I'm going to get hurt again, and then I'm going to be on my own again. You know what? I'm going to skip to the end and just not bother. And that's often why people don't want to date and say they can't date, or they're not ready to date, or it's not the right time, or they don't trust people. So that's why I created that Design Your Ideal Partner exercise, because it enables you to go out and date and have fun with Mr. Right Now or Miss Right Now. I'm all for that, but just be consciously aware that if they're not, you're not going to fall in love with someone if they don't have all the things on your list that you know you really need. So you can go out and have fun. I do think it's a good idea to go out and have fun, because quite often we lose our spark and we lose our confidence, and dating someone else will build up your confidence again. And I don't know, a lot of my clients will have come out with negative beliefs about themselves, like they're not attractive, or maybe their body's not in good shape, or their partner said something that's derogatory that they keep in their head, and they focus on that. And a new partner can get rid of all that. You know, you can get back in the driving seat and feel good about yourself and know that you're lovable, and people will love you again and want to be with you and find you attractive. So I think dating is good, but just don't fall in love with Mr. Right Now, because if he's Mr. Right Now, that there's a reason for that, and that will be on your list of things. But if Mr. Right Now shows any signs, or Miss Right Now shows any signs of having those 5 red flags, you don't go any further, you're out. Nobody gets a second chance with the red flags, not even Mr. Right Now, you're out.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah. If you are watching right now, please share with friends and family. I know some might not be able to watch right now as a live, so they are not there right now, but they might later watch later on. So share with them that they might watch as a replay. And we have a question from Tandy here. Right on your screen, Sarah.
So what if amongst your top 5 ticks forward is when you don't work on the last one? Well, if it's in your ideal partner section about what you want and what you need, you've got to be flexible, because say, for example, you say, well, they need to speak French. Well, to be quite honest, you can be flexible on that. You know, brown eyes, green eyes, you can be flexible on those things. And, you know, it depends how important they are to you. You know, things like kindness or love or things like that, they're more important, right? The one that I would never compromise on is if they have any of your 5 must not haves. They're deal breakers. Okay, they are absolute deal breakers. But if they don't speak French, or maybe, you know, they have a child, they have I don't know, an interest that isn't, you know, fine, that's okay. I think you've got to trust your instincts. A lot of times when you come out of a breakup, we lose touch with our gut instinct. We start thinking with our heads too much, and it's about trusting that instinct. If your instinct is saying, I think there's hope here, genuinely I do, but you've got to be consciously aware. If there's a little, you know, red flag in your head going, oh, you know, they look great, but there's something I'm not sure about, then trust it. Because if you're thinking it, then it's your body's warning system. So just be a bit more intuitive and tune into yourself, because there's, you know, as long as they're not any of your red flags, then, you know, you can give it a go. But, you know, just be careful. You don't want to be giving your heart to somebody. I mean, I always say this, clients that come to me, usually the first couple of sessions, they have 2 criteria for finding a new partner after a breakup. 2. Number 1, they have a pulse. And number 2, they show them 1 sign of affection. So a pulse and 1 sign of affection. Then they do this thing which I call limpet mode, which is this poor person, they sucker themselves to this person, and they are following them around, texting them night and day. Oh, I love you, this is amazing. It's like, oh my God, I found someone. I'm not going to be alone. I found someone. And it's just too much. And those relationships might be intense at the beginning, but they burn out really quick. So just be aware that, you know, having a pulse is not a criteria to get into a relationship with somebody. It's important.
And there is another quick follow-up question,
yeah, which says, yes, they have all the 5, but number 6 just cropped up.
Did you see it coming?
Well, what is this for red flags? If it's red flags, just get out. But if it's a positive, you can add all the positives you want in, can't you? You never know. This, you know, this ideal partner is kind of work in progress. You know, you'll sit down tonight, write your ideal partner and what you want, but what you need as well. And then your 5 must not have, so the red flags. But then, you know, you might be out and about, or you might meet someone and you learn something from that. You know, if you're going on a Tinder date or you're on Bumble and then you go on a date and it's an absolute disaster, figure out, well, why was that a disaster? And make sure that you've got some security against that next time in your list, so you don't pick the same kind of person.
Do prioritize on your values. If they don't if they don't tick your values box, it's a no.
It's a no. And when we invited Sarah here, most people who saw our leaflet, they were saying divorce coach. The idea which most people were having is somebody who encourages people to divorce. And and I know it might sound you know, so weird and funny, but you know, that's a number of people who were sending messages. That's what they were saying. And now we go on that area. The question that we have is, what if the other part is rejecting to uncouple? Yeah. You know, he wants it, and the husband is saying, no, we are not divorcing. We stay in this. The D word from the day we met, we said we're not going to hear about it. We're not going to talk about it. And the other one is saying, I'm fed up. I need to pack my bags and go.
Well, that's a really difficult one, and that's where the heartache comes in, when you're being rejected by somebody that, you know, doesn't want to be with you. So, I mean, we've got to be sensitive to that. And if we're taking it that this is a healthy relationship, so I mean, there's that dynamic. You talked about domestic abuse before and toxic relationships. Sometimes that can be a control thing. But if it is a healthy relationship and one person is just heartbroken, then I think the important thing to do is try. You know, I always say to my clients that are still in marriages and they're saying, should I stay? Should I go, Sarah? I always say, look, you know, give yourself 3 months to try this, okay? Sit down together and work out what you love about the relationship. So you both start with 4 or 5 things that you both love about your partner and about the relationship. So you start it off on a positive. Yeah, and that could be relatively small, but if you're struggling with that, make sure you think about this before you sit down and have the conversation, because there's nothing worse than sort of struggling to find those things. So identify them and then come up with, you know, 4 or 5 things that maybe aren't right for you in the relationship, and ask, you know, talk about them, because maybe you've never discussed before that, you know, it annoys you when they do whatever it is. So talk about it. Say, look, you know, are you aware of this? Because this I find really difficult. It makes me feel like this. Is that your intention? You know, quite often they say, no, I didn't even know it meant you felt like that. To me, it was nothing. I didn't even think about it. I can stop it. Or it might be, look, I don't care. And if they're saying they don't care, then obviously you know the relationship is pretty much done. But what I would say then after that is come up with 3 or 4 things you can both commit to doing to improve the areas where your partner is worried or has concerns. So, you know, maybe you'll stop doing something, or you'll do it slightly differently, or you'll pause before you do it, whatever it is, to give the relationship a chance, and then commit to doing that for 3 months. Because in 12 weeks, you will have a lot more clarity. You know, with clarity, you can then make a better decision. So it might be that at the end of those 12, you think, well, actually, yeah, we've put in those changes and it's sustainable, I can do it. Or it might be, look, there's no way I can sustain doing this every day for the rest of my life. I've done it for 12 weeks. I still don't want to be with you. I'm really sorry. You know, and you both get more clarity. And I think if you are going to split and one person doesn't want the split, then you can do things. It doesn't have to be difficult. You can, or unfriendly. You can find ways to make it easier for them. That maybe speak to their family members and get them a support team in place for them. You know, maybe they're not capable. Maybe you're the one that organizes all the friends and you're the one that's got contact with the family. So set up a where you know they're going to struggle. you know, maybe spend some time. I had a couple who were sort of in their late 60s, and they decided to split up. But it was a very traditional relationship where she'd done all the cooking and all the cleaning, and he'd done all the driving and the online banking and that kind of thing. So they decided they were going to break up, but then they said, we're going to spend the next 6 months together teaching each other all the things you can't do. So he taught her online banking, helped her set up her own thing. She taught him how to use a washing machine and all those things. And so, you know, and where to put the washing up because she was laughing, she didn't even know what to do with it. So, you know, so they spent 6 months sort of becoming friends and looking after each other and teaching each other those things. And they moved out eventually, but they lived quite close to each other, so they could still help out. So they weren't, you know, even though, you know, I think she wanted it more than he did, but she was there and made it as easy as possible for him so that he could, you know, cope. So I think there are things you can do to make it easier for each other. And I think being kind and respectful is always important, and just understanding that you might want it, but they don't. So, you know, if you get a new partner, you're not going to be parading them around in front of them, and you're just going to maybe keep it in the background for a while.
Fantastic. Someone may be asking, how do I get over my spouse for good?
Yeah, that is a great question. And well, one of the things that works really well is to write your breakup bucket list. So this is everything that you can do now that you could not have done during that relationship. So it might be for some people, you know, spending time with friends that their ex didn't really like. It might be going somewhere where you really wanted to go and they didn't. It might be, I had a client the other day who got into leather trousers because her ex-husband hated leather trousers, and then she got into leather trousers and she loved it. You know, it's finding something that, you know, and creating a life for yourself. Because while you're focused on your ex, you're not focusing on you and your future. So the important thing to do is to make sure that you are redesigning your life and creating it to be everything you want. So get rid of the things that don't work for you. Use it as like a spring clean of your life opportunity, and start focusing on you. If you're focusing on your ex and telling your sad story to the hairdresser, to the nail lady, to everyone that will listen, then you're going to be remembering all the sad story all over again. So stop telling the sad story, start creating things that you can do now that you could never have done before, and shifting your focus onto those more exciting things that are now going to fill that new life that you're moving towards.
Shift, head towards where you want to go. We are about to close down, but it will be difficult for me to close down because apart from working with couples and married people, we also work with singles, which you, Sarah, you work with so much. You know, now that you have worked with a number of people who are searching, how important is marriage preparation as far as the whole subject is concerned? You know, you have worked with couples and coupling, and some of the things which you're saying here, it might sound that they stemmed from the beginning, that there wasn't much preparation. How important is preparation? I know you're a fan of Gary Chapman, The 5 Languages of Love, The 5 Love
Yes.
Love.
Oh my goodness, I love that book. I love it. I love it because, you know, I think it's really important to work out who you are, because I think, you know, underneath the, you know, the initial what you like to do and, you know, what you both look like, those sort of things, deeper than that, you know, what makes you tick, like we talked about how you resolve conflict. It'd be great to know that up front. Like Gary Chapman talks about the 5 languages of love. You know, what is your preferred way of showing your partner that you love them, and does it match yours? Because if yours is saying I love you darling 5 times a day, and his is washing the car, or, you know, bringing you a cup of tea in bed on a Sunday morning, you're going to look at him and go, well, you never tell me you love me, so you don't love me. He's going, hang on, I bring you tea in bed every Sunday and I wash the car. And you're like, what? You know, so, you know, and he's like, well, you never do anything for me. You don't make me. And so, you know, you've got to really think about this, because that will really enhance your relationship. You know, just understanding, like you said, Priscilla, what your values are. Like maybe your number 1 value is adventure. And if your partner's number 1 value is security, a bit of a mismatch. You want to go out and jump off the top of a mountain, and he wants to sit in and just make sure everything's okay in the bank account, you might have different views on life, and it might be okay because he's hot and she's hot to start with, but after a while that's not going to last. So like making sure your values are aligned are also important. So yeah, I think it's really important to, like you said, do some good preparation, but just by deep diving into who you each are. And that book, Gary Chapman, 5 Languages of Love, is a great place to start for sure.
In closing, thank you so much, Sarah. In closing, we always say that for every guest that come on the platform, we do ask them to give us homework. If you can give homework to some that are married, and just a quick one to those that are going through the process of a breakup as well.
Okay, so those of you that are married, I would definitely say your homework would be to tell your partner the top 2 things you love about them the most, and tell them why, and give them examples of why. Because quite often we get into the daily routine, don't we, of work, of children, just the daily routine. We don't take time out to let people know that we really appreciate them. Okay, so let your partner know what you love about them, why you love them, and give them some examples. That would be if you're married, because that will really reinforce your relationship. Now, for those of you that are going through a breakup, what I would say is get your support team together. Go and find some people that you can be around. The friend, not the friend that chops your clothes up, remember, but the friend that can give you some constructive advice, and someone to go and exercise with. Get that team together, because what it'll do is it will dial down your stress and help you get your sparkle back and start feeling good again, which is what this is all about.
And where do they get Sarah Davison, should in case they need support?
They need me. Well, so you can go to my website, sarahdavidson.com, or drop me an email, sarah@sarahdavidson.com as well. We're offering free discovery calls to people. So if you are going through a breakup and you're not sure, we have lots of different solutions depending on budgets, personality, situation. So we have something for everyone. So we have online programs starting from £15 upwards. So if there's something that you need help with, then do reach out to us and we will help you for sure.
And the books.
Yeah,
the books. So Uncoupling and The Split. And I'm also on Instagram. I do videos pretty much daily on there. There's lots of support on Facebook as well. Sarah Davison Divorce Coach. You can find me on there, plus Twitter and LinkedIn. So I'm pretty much everywhere. So if you need help, you'll find me.
Yes, Sarah, thank you so much for affording us the opportunity of having this interview. Having known you and what you're doing, it's a privilege to have you on Further Together. And guys, if you're watching right now, I hope you also get in touch with her, as well as if you have a friend who needs advice. I mean, proper advice, not that of taking your ex goods and chuck them in the skip. Profession. Sarah is a seasoned coach with more than 20 years of experience. Have worked with high-profile speakers. Among them, I have just mentioned Tony Robbins. So she's somebody who is tried and tested within the industry of personal development. Sarah, thank you very much for.
Thank you, guys. It's such a pleasure to work with you. Such great questions. I loved it. It was such fun. Really great questions, and so lovely of you to invite me on. Thank you ever so much.
It is an honor. What more shall we say to our viewers apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your time, which is your precious possession. We hope you will share with friends. God willing, time permitting, we'll be back again next week. For me and my beautiful wife, Priscilla, we're going for the homework. We're signing out. Till we meet again.
Love you guys.